Today I want to talk about something that is quite basic when it comes to reporting in the MR software, but it is really handy to know how to utilize these settings effectively. And that is controlling and restricting certain channels that come into your report for ease of reporting and for channel comparison purposes. So just as an introduction here, the recording we're going to be working with is a recording of someone performing a couple of squats, and as you can see, this is multi-device. We have motion capture, full body, and we also have EMG sensors coming in from two muscle groups bilaterally on the glutes and the vastus medialis. So I'm going to start quite basic, and we're just going to go ahead and run a quick analysis report. And what I'm going to go over today is relevant for any report in the MR software. When you first select a report, you are going to be prompted to mark the interval for analysis and press next. You might also be given an option to select channels. So pretty easy to skip past this before clicking next, but basically the software is just prompting you to mark an interval for analysis. With the quick analysis report, that is as easy as clicking and dragging the portion in time you want to analyze. Otherwise, the entire recording is analyzed. And because I have a few moments in time where my subject is walking around and I do just want to report on the squats, I'm just going to highlight that portion in time where we're performing the 3 squats. If we go to select channels, you'll see that this selection result shows all of the channels that are going to appear in our quick analysis result. So if we don't do anything here at all and we simply click next, that means our report is going to have 166 channels in it. So just for the purposes of seeing what that looks like, let's go ahead and click next. So now we can see our quick analysis report is super long. It's showing us every single channel we recorded, all 166, as well as the minimum, mean, and max statistics. Not that useful, is it, right? So now I want to talk about the 2 different ways to restrict channels going into a report. So the first way is kind of in line with what we just talked about. In that report generation process, you can go to the select channels area. So if I want to go back and make that selection, I can click on channels and intervals under reanalyze. And now I'm brought back to that previous step. So now I can select channels and I could say, okay, I do want to do some restriction here. So I'm going to use the filter at the top to restrict by type. So first of all, I am interested in both angles and EMG, but not in accelerations. Immediately that's narrowing down my focus a little bit. And now I actually do want to continue to narrow the focus, but I want to filter it down using another category here. So body side, maybe not quite relevant because I do want to analyze both sides, so I'll just keep that unchecked to pass everything through. But now I can go to name and I can select the names of specific channels that I'm interested in. So because we're squatting, I'm interested primarily in lower body, so I'm just going to grab some ankle, some foot. I want the EMG channels, so I'll grab that glute med, knee angles, hip angles. We'll go with lumbar spine and pelvis angles. Just picking out the specific angles that we do want to report on. So that narrowed my selection result to 28. So now we can click next. And all of the channels that appear in my report are those 28 channels. So it made it significantly easier, right? So now it's still a lot of channels. How do we continue to organize this? We can go into the channel restriction in a specific report element and also restrict channels there. So for instance, if I double click on this report element, I can make another restriction here that specifies, okay, I not only want to send all of the channels or all 28 channels that I selected already into the report, but for this specific element, I want to further restrict to just EMG. So I can do that by clicking on that restrict all channels and then restricting to just EMG. And now we get something that looks like this, right? Simple and easy. So let's say, I'm happy with this. It has just EMG. I want to do some other stuff here to continue to analyze that. So I can go into my compare and compare channels. And you'll see here that we can now compare all of these channels in a group as well. So if I wanted to overlay all 4 of those EMG channels on top of each other to analyze the timing and coordination patterns, I can go ahead and check all the boxes in the same column and then overlay them here. One thing you'll notice is that if we go back to the channels and intervals, and let's undo everything, right? Let's uncheck everything, send all 166 channels in there. If I choose the same comparison function to compare channels within the report on top of each other, this gets even crazier, right? So it's always a good idea to restrict those channels because now we just have a big wall that is going to be a little bit more difficult to compare against. So when you are creating reports, I do highly recommend restricting your channel focus to only the channels that are meaningful for that analysis for that reason. And that'll make you more effective at creating reports and moving things around.